In Palestine, the Israeli occupation forces continue for a second consecutive day their siege of Tulkarem town. Saudi soldiers killed 8 people and caused widespread damage. A commercial airliner carrying more than 60 passengers crashed in Kazakhstan while covering the air route Baku-Grozny. And in Ecuador, a constitutional court judge accepts a habeas corpus appeal and declares the existence of forced disappearances in the case of the 4 children detained by the military in Guayaquil. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Palestine, the Israeli occupation forces continue for a second consecutive day their siege of Tulkarem town. Saudi soldiers killed 8 people and caused widespread destruction. Wafa news agencies report that Israeli bulldozers are deliberately destroying all infrastructure, causing water and electricity cuts. During the day, Israeli forces prevented citizens from going about their daily activities, especially children and the sick. The Palestinian Health Ministry said 2 women and a teenager were killed by Israeli forces in Tulkarem and Nur Shams camp in the occupied West Bank. At the same time, occupation forces besieged the Al-Amari camp south of Ramallah. The Red Crescent reported that 3 youth were wounded by Israeli soldiers on the day. In parallel, the Tel Aviv regime carried out a large-scale campaign of kidnappings where the detainees were taken blindfolded. In this context, occupation army soldiers took a Palestinian prisoner out of an Israeli jail and used him as a human shield while continuing their incursion into the town of Al-Amadi. During his traditional Christmas address held in Wednesday at St. Peter's Basilica, Pope Francis called for a ceasefire in Gaza before thousands of faithful attendees, underscoring the grave humanitarian situation in the area.
I think of the Christian communities in Israel and Palestine, particularly in Gaza, where the humanitarian situation is extremely grave. May there be a ceasefire. May the hostages be released, and aid be given to the people worn out by hunger and by war.
In another note, in Palestine on Christmas Eve, Christians gathered for Mass at the Church of the Holy Family in Gaza City, the place where several displaced civilians have found shelter amid the ongoing genocide carried out by Israel in the region. Is the only Latin Catholic church in the Strip and has suffered extensive damage during the Zionist aggression. The Mass was limited to prayers inside the building, with worshippers expressing their hopes for an end to the Israeli attacks and wishing for a return to peace. The onslaught of the Tel Aviv's offensive against Palestine since October 2023 has overshadowed the celebrations associated with the date, since over 1,000 Christian citizens have had to seek refuge away from their homes or been forced to flee the area altogether.
The situation this past year was very difficult for us, and this year is also difficult because of the atmosphere of war, the martyrs, and the life that we live. We cannot express it. It's a tragedy, but we must celebrate the coming and birth of our Lord Jesus Christ. We hope that next year, God willing, on this day, we will celebrate in our homes and celebrate in the city of Bethlehem. We used to travel every year and celebrate there, and the atmosphere was beautiful. God willing, we will celebrate in Jerusalem and in Bethlehem, and the war will end. This is the most important thing for us and the most important thing we ask for at the moment, because the situation is very difficult and we're very unhappy.
In West Bank's Bethlehem, people reflect on how the Israeli offensive has impacted their town, which looks bleak in comparison with previous years during Christmas time.
We feel very bad because Bethlehem always was crowded with people from all the world in this period of time, in Christmas. But look, it's no, you can see, it's no people.
Just to feel that we are people. We want to feel with Jesus Christ. We want to celebrate something spiritual. That's all. But we have nothing to celebrate music or anything else. Nothing. Just praying for peace. That's all.
And the Christian world celebrates Christmas amidst traditions, gifts, and parties. Thousands of citizens around the world celebrate Christmas with various processions and carols, even local traditions. The festivity combines faith and culture in a diversity of expressions. Countries like Turkey, Iraq, the Vatican, South Korea, Argentina, Chile, among others, gather families to commemorate the essence of the festivity. President of Bolivia, Luis Arce, shared a Christmas message on December 24th where he highlighted the people's hard work in the face of the nation's difficult year.
Este año, difícil, nos ha enseñado que con trabajo y solidaridad.
This difficult year has taught us that with hard work and solidarity we Bolivians can renew ourselves and move towards a better future. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart and recognize the effort of everyone to overcome this stage and move towards a prosperous Bolivia full of hope.
And the President of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, expressed through a Christmas message her wishes for peace, love, and prosperity to the Mexican people currently living in the country as well as those abroad.
Today is a special day for all Mexicans, for Mexican families. I wish you to spend it as a family, that you can be together. Remember that material things are not important, that the most important thing is love for our fellow men and women, love for the family, for children, for mothers, for the elderly. We wish you have a great time on this day, especially, of course, to all Mexicans who are in our territory, in the 32 states of the Republic, but also to all Mexicans who are outside our territory at this time, particularly to all Mexicans who are in the United States. I wish you all the best. We thank you for everything you do for your families and for Mexico, with much affection. Have a Merry Christmas Eve and a Merry Christmas.
Now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. A commercial airliner carrying more than 60 passengers crashed in Kazakhstan on Wednesday while curving the air route Baku-Grozny. The aircraft crashed on the runway of Aktau Airport after circling the area. The Kazakh Health Minister Akmarat Al-Nasarova reported that 62 passengers and 5 crew members were on board the aircraft at the time of the incident. According to the company that owned the plane, Azerbaijan Airlines, the plane was flying over the Caspian Sea when it sent a distress signal due to the collision with a flock of birds. According to the Ministry of Emergencies of Kazakhstan, so far over 25 people have been rescued with injuries of varying severity and taken to hospitals, including 3 minors. And Russian President Vladimir Putin expressed his condolences to the victims of the plane crash in Aktau during the opening of a CIS summit in St. Petersburg.
Before we begin our work, unfortunately, I must say a few words about the tragedy that occurred today in Aktau. The plane crashed. There are casualties. There are many injured, and as we just spoke with you, on your behalf I would like to express condolences to the families of the deceased and all the injured. Let us hope for their recovery. In agreement with the President of Kazakhstan, a Russian Ministry of Emergency Situations plane with medical personnel and the necessary additional equipment on board is en route to Aktau.
In the Russian Republic of North Ossetia, the emergency ministry reported an explosion in the Vladikavkaz Mall, where at least one person was killed and 2 more were injured. The explosion took place in the evening hours at the Alania Mall in the restoration area, causing a fire that spread over more than 800 meters, which was extinguished at 10:15 local time. In statements to the local media, the governor of North Ossetia, Sergei Meniailo, said that the only victim was a woman who was ejected into the street due to the explosive blast. Meniailo also explained that investigations are already underway to determine the causes of the incident. Since the building does not have gas, a preliminary hypothesis of an equipment failure is being considered. An opposition SOS party filed a request with the Constitutional Court to demand that the office of the Romanian president be recognized as vacant due to the expiration of Klaus Iohannis' term of office. The political formation also sent letters to the presidents of the Senate and the Chamber of Deputies of Parliament, urging them to recognize the end of the current mandate. Romania held the first round of its presidential elections on November 24th, with independent candidate Călin Gheorghiu in first place with 22.94% of the votes and candidate Elena Lasconi in second place with 19.18% of the votes. However, the runoff election, which had been scheduled for December 8th, was cancelled by a decision of the highest national court. The government of Denmark announced Tuesday an increase in defense spending for Greenland following statements by U.S. President-elect Donald Trump. According to Danish Defense Minister Troels Lund Poulsen, Copenhagen plans to allocate an amount of close to 1.5 billion to the new aid package. It includes 2 Thetis-class patrol boats, 2 long-range drones, 2 sled dog teams, and more Danish military personnel in Greenland. Earlier, the U.S. President-elect stated that for goals in national security and freedom around the world, Washington considers possession and control of Greenland an absolute necessity. These statements were rejected by the island's authorities, who responded sharply, "We are not for sale and never will be." Japan's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Takeshi Iwaya, arrived in China to consolidate collaboration and address outstanding issues. Takeshi held dialogues with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi as they both take part in the second meeting of the high-level consultation mechanism on human exchanges. The foreign ministers went over the possible lifting of the ban on the import of fishery products from Japan and the release of radioactive treated water from the Fukushima nuclear power plant into the ocean. This visit follows last November's meeting between the presidents of China and Japan in Peru, where the 2 leaders agreed to make progress towards a strategic and mutually advantageous relationship. And a memo released by the United States National Security Archive has revealed that between 1950 and 1960, CIA agents used drugs, mind control, and other techniques on suspected spies. The memo states that the mind control techniques were developed in the context of the Ultra Bluebird and Arctic Shock programs and included the use of drugs, hypnosis, isolation, and sensory deprivation. In several cases, the experiments were conducted without consent. It also affirms that these methods contributed to the development of U.S. interrogation techniques in Vietnam, Latin America, Afghanistan, Iraq, and Guantanamo Bay. And the ALBA TCP member countries issue a communique rejecting statements made by the President-elect of the United States, Donald Trump, about his intentions to take control of the Panama Canal once he begins his terms. Through the social media X, the platform Express, the member states of the Bolivarian Alliance of the Peoples of America, People's Trade Treaty, strongly reject the statements made by the President-elect of the United States, Donald Trump, in which he threatens to take control of the Panama Canal. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Fun short break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Ecuador, a constitutional court judge accepts a habeas corpus appeal and declares the existence of forced disappearances in the case of the 4 children detained by the military in Guayaquil. The judge, Tanya Lur, issued measures of integral reparation, requesting that the state continue the investigation to discover the whereabouts of the children. For her part, Lur ordered the Ministry of Health to provide psychological support to the families and ordered the creation of a 5-member commission to carry out an investigation separate from that of the Public Prosecutor's Office. The Attorney General's Office also requested that a date be set for the hearing against 16 military personnel involved in the case. And the United Nations Committee on Enforced Disappearances requested Ecuador to adopt immediate measures to locate the 4 missing children of Guayaquil. The demand was made through a resolution that gives a deadline until January 7th for the government to respond to the case of the disappearance of brothers Josue and Ismael Arroyo and their friends Saul Arboleda and Steven Medina. These are precautionary measures that the competent state bodies must comply with in the given period of time. They include the establishment of a comprehensive strategy with an action plan and a timetable for the immediate search of the minors. The President of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, decreed a 9.5% increase in the minimum wage as part of the labor policies promoted by his government. After several weeks of discussions at the labor and wage policy negotiation table, the minimum wage increase was finally defined. President Petro assured that this is a key step to reduce the serious wage situation left by the past neoliberal governments. In this sense, Petro announced the increase from Zipaquira, where he was meeting with the community.
And I'm announcing here today that we are going to use these 2 figures, 5% average level of growth in the price of goods, and on the other hand, 2.7% average level of growth in food prices. Afterwards, we are going to compare them with the increase in the minimum wage that we are proposing for next year, effective January 1st. This growth will be 9.54% per.
Also in Colombia, government authorities reported 1 death and more than 500 injuries due to the use of fireworks this holiday season. The National Health Institute said that of the 500 people injured by gunpowder, at least 200 are minors. The institute also reported that a minor died of burns in the municipality of Sucre on Christmas Eve. Authorities pointed out that the most of the injuries are caused by pyrotechnic devices, and in 60% of the cases, the injured are those who were handling the devices, while 30% were bystanders. In Haiti, 2 journalists were killed Tuesday while covering the reopening of a hospital in downtown Port-au-Prince. The dead have been identified as Mackenzie Nathu and Jimmy Jean, who were shot by gunmen who stormed the hospital, which is located in an area of high violence. According to the spokesperson of the online media collective, Robes Dimonge, other journalists were wounded in the attack and have been transferred to another public hospital. The attack comes amid growing insecurity in the Haitian capital, which claimed the lives of more than 200 people in early December. The government of Peru is considering declaring an environmental emergency in the marine area of the province of Talara, department of Piura, following an oil spill on December 20th. The Ministry of the Environment emphasized that detailed reports are being requested from the entities involved in order to analyze the declaration of an environmental emergency. If this declaration is approved, an immediate and short-term action plan will be implemented in coordination with the government of Piura to reinforce the actions already established. The oil spill of last December 20th affected around 10,000 square meters of sea surface in Piura, severely damaging sea life. And in Argentina, social movements held a dinner in solidarity with the homeless in front of the National Congress in Buenos Aires. Organizations such as Proyecto Siete, the Union of Workers of the Popular Economy, and the Movement of Excluded Workers carried out the initiative for the 6th consecutive year, with the participation of hundreds of volunteers. According to the latter, last year more than 2,000 citizens participated, but this year the number have increased due to the economic crisis that the country is experiencing. There are currently nearly 12,000 Argentinians living on the streets in the capital alone, an increase of at least 2,000 more than last year. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.